This is our 19th century farmhouse. We have repaired, remodeled, renovated, or repainted nearly every square foot of this place in the 20 years we've called this house a home. Plus, it's full of secondhand furniture and repurposed items of all sorts. But with all that being said, there's one thing that still hasn't been touched: the 1960s era kitchen cabinets. As you're going to see, there was more than one reason it was time for them to get some much needed attention. So in this honeydew it yourself video, we're going to start out by showing you how we salvaged some secondhand cabinets out of a fancy 2-owner home, and then we'll tear into those old outdated cabinets of ours to make way for what we hope will be a beautiful set of new to us repurposed cupboards. It'll all make more sense if you just stick around and watch.
Dig Drive DIY.
I figured out early on in life that you can save a lot of money on something you want if you let someone else buy it the first time. And whatever stigma there may be attached to secondhand furniture and appliances, it's certainly lost on my wife and I. We've made it our life's work to recycle, repurpose, and reuse. Everything you see right here, right now, was acquired secondhand. And there's a good story associated with each of these items. Like the microwave we bought at a pawn shop. It was probably a year before we were married. We got it just so we could make popcorn for movie night. It's still our only microwave. It works fine. Or the old wardrobe that I salvaged from the neighbor's barn. I cleaned it up and I gave it to Kara for Christmas one year. And that's a cool story too. But all of these things help to make a house a home. But they don't really change the house, because they go with you when you leave typically. No, the types of things that leave a mark usually require a little more blood, sweat, and tears. And believe me, we've contributed plenty of all three over the years to leave our mark on this place.
Okay, tub time.
Tub in the bathroom. But there's one thing we've been meaning to address since the beginning: the old kitchen cabinets, or cupboards. What do you say? By today's standards, these built-in cabinets are less than desirable for 4 main reasons. Number 1, there are basically no drawer guides, just wood on wood under there. As the drawers slide, they create really fine sawdust that over time gets all over the dishes and food items that live inside the cupboards. A little wax job certainly helped the situation, but still, it gets old cleaning sawdust from inside your cupboards and dishes. Number 2, the state of the wall behind these cabinets is rough. The insulation must be terrible in there, because in the dead of winter, there are times when we would think that the canned goods inside were going to freeze. We need to get that wall better insulated if we're going to do this. Plus, the backsplash area between the countertop and the upper cabinets is just painted OSB particle board, and it just looks a little junky. We've never liked it. We'd love to see that go. The number 3 problem, Kara has she's hated the countertop since we first bought this place. It kind of has this textured surface, and it isn't easy to clean, and she's never liked the color. You know, she has mentioned this countertop a few times over the years. So, number 4, and this is probably the biggest reason we'd like to remove these old cabinets, is that mice have somehow found a way to get inside. So, from either below or behind them somewhere. We've tried everything over the years to keep them out of there, but the access path that they get in must be hidden by the countertop. That's what we're assuming. And we hope that by removing the cabinets, we'll finally solve that mystery and stop the mice from getting inside of our cupboards. Yeah, I know. It's gross. You think that's bad? Stay tuned. So we've never had a specific plan or timeline for a kitchen remodel, even though at this point it is well overdue. We just figured that the opportunity would present itself somehow, some way, one of these days. Well, I got a message from my cousin Jason telling the tale of a really nice house that was full of 10 to 12-year-old custom cabinets. And the new owner of the house just wanted rid of them, free for the taking. So when I heard that, of course, my interest was piqued. And considering the secondhand nature of most of the things in our house, this sounded like it could be the perfect opportunity and right up our alley. As you can see, it was no tall tale, all really good and made by a very reputable local cabinet shop. We couldn't afford not to take them. I mean, come on. It took only one evening to rip all the cabinets free from the walls and the floor. Fortunately, Jason is a plumber by trade, and he handled all the complicated stuff to get the sinks unhooked, so that made this nice. It would then take 2 different trips with my 12-foot trailer to get all these cabinets home, but we managed to fill up both my shop as well as Jason's barn with these really nice used cabinets from that house. And some of you may have already seen this, but I got a super sweet granite countertop out of the deal too. And it ended up on my shop table of all places. I almost turned that one down because it would be so heavy to get out of there. But now that it's on there, I can't imagine not having it. So I never got to meet the new owners of that beautiful home. But if they ever find themselves watching this video, just know how thankful we are for your generosity. We are going to put this stuff to really good use eventually. So once we had them all at home, the first real obstacle would be to figure out what combination of bases and uppers would most optimally fit in our wall space. It took me hours and hours to measure and figure and balance them all out. I was going to use some from the laundry room, some from the kitchen, some from that bathroom, but eventually we arrived on a combination that had a total width that was within 2 inches of our existing wall space in the house. Before committing to that kind of workload, we wanted to check on prices of new cabinets and explore some countertop options. So, this whole thing got started really because Kara just wanted a new countertop, and we want to make sure we're not signing up for more work than what it's worth. So we went to town to see what we could be saving by reusing the secondhand cabinets over just buying all new. If we could use these secondhand cabinets with minimal effort, then we could realistically be saving around $4,000 after some material expenses. So it was mainly paint, so we debated back and forth for weeks trying to decide if we had the time to mess with this ourselves or if we should just spend the $4,000 and hire it done. And it's a fortunate thing to say that we've finally gotten to a place in our lives where it wasn't just about the money, but there's still a matter of principle. And let's face it, we have reached that fortunate point in our lives because we have been and continue to be thrifty and frugal. So let's not lose sight of our roots just yet. We'll teach our girls some lessons in saving, reclaiming, and repurposing, and that it doesn't take lots of money to create something beautiful and useful. Oh, and of course, and maybe above all else, there is a tremendous sense of pride that comes from doing a job yourself. You know how food seems to taste better when you've made it yourself? Well, yeah, it's just like that.
You're not going to show this on the video.
That is quite a mouse house.
They find every piece of fiber around that they can find. And then
You guys want to dig that out?
Will you get your gloves
So
on?
the mice might have been right there. And there's a big hole right there that they were coming in underneath that outlet. I'm not sure.
No, you're not doing that.
And there was another hole.
Mice carrying
Don't put your
pieces.
fingers in
Get
it.
out, everybody out.
Once all the old cabinets were out, it was time to tackle that wall. New drywall and insulation were definitely in order for sure.
And on the bottom?
There's one more.
Okay.
Right here, do you think?
Well, what do you think of our temp wall? Should I? Okay, now we can demo. Well, here we are. It is Saturday, April 2nd, and we're finally ready to tear into this wall. So we've had a lot of debate on whether or not we should even tear off the existing drywall. My concern is that the insulation behind it is not very good. Obviously you saw there was a mouse issue coming from the bottom, so I'd at least like to expose the bottom and redo all that in an attempt to seal it off so mice can't get in. And this wall has always traditionally been very, very cold, so I think that the insulation is not very good. So we're going to start by tearing this board off from the bottom. I had this as kind of like the backsplash between the cabinets and the countertop, and it sticks out too far from the wall too, so that has to come off at a bare minimum. I think that there's probably likely a seam in the drywall behind this, But we're gonna just get into it and see what it looks like. There you go. Whoa. Okay, now go over here in the middle. That's good. Oh, here's two more.
Careful.
Where'd my glasses go?
I don't know.
We got all the drywall off. We got all the nails pulled. Everybody worked together for 10 minutes and we got all the nails pulled, and now we're going to try to get this old nasty insulation out of here. We're going to try to roll those up and get everything out of there as we go. This is like, there's almost nothing here. This is the outside wall. So there's a total void down here at the bottom. This is like where the mice were getting in. See, it just had big holes in it. And that's why everything was just so cold over here.
We got to do a few electrical upgrades before rebuilding that wall. So it was time to call Dad in on this project. He's my on-call electrician that's never rejected a job.
Do some under cabinet lighting and make sure that our over the sink light works. So I got Dad here doing the electrical, and my cousin Mark, he's helping. He didn't know what he was getting into. I asked him to come over here and look at something to paint, and now he's stripping drywall.
We didn't want a chance for mice to be able to get in while we were going to be gone on spring break the next week, so we wanted to remove this wall, rewire, re-insulate, and install new drywall all in the course of one day. So it would prove to be a very long day, but with the help of Rick, Dad, my cousin Mark, Kara, and the girls, we were able to completely rebuild this wall in the course of about 16 hours. The pros could have done it in less than half that time, I'm sure, but we're just mere amateurs here. Come on. With the stripping and rebuilding of that wall, we solved two of our initial problems.
Oh, that was a mistake.
Hopefully, the mouse situation was taken care of by sealing off their entry points under the cabinets, and we also drastically improved the insulation of that wall, so hopefully we won't have frosty cans of soup in our future anymore. And by the way, thanks to my cousin Tony for bending that piece of 90-degree aluminum you saw around the bottom. That's part of that mouse effort.
My back's starting to hurt.
Uh-huh.
Now it was time for some drywall patching, and this is one thing that I have participated in before, but I've never became proficient at doing. Usually, I got a pro helping me out, and I do a little here and there just to look like I contributed, but I've never really finished any drywall work. And 90% of this wall was going to be hidden by cabinets, so I thought this was a great opportunity for me to learn and to try to do a little DIY drywall mudding.
Well, we've got 2 coats of mud on and everything sanded. Now we're going to clean stuff up, right? We got a few spots we might have to patch a little bit, but for the most part, this is going to be done since all this is getting covered. If we were going to paint this wall and it was exposed, then it would need a 3rd coat of mud because there's still some defects and things that need smoothed out. But since all the cabinets are essentially going to cover all this up, we've paid special attention to the areas that are going to be exposed and got those fixed up. But
with the drywall finally done and all sanded down to good enough, it was time to paint. And painting interior house walls is one of my least favorite things to do. And besides, Kara is much, much better at it. So she would do most of the all of the painting while I was at work during the day. Thank you, Kara, for doing that. So within a couple of days, Kara had the kitchen completely transformed. It was all different with new white walls and off-white trim. It looks great. So Kara's got this really nice quartz countertop picked out, but before we can order it, they have to come out and do an on-site visit to take measurements of the base cabinets all set in place, which meant we had to get that done before we could even order it. Then it would take about 3 weeks or more for delivery. So our big push here is to get the base cabinets set. Then we could paint the remainder of the cabinets and install the uppers while we waited on the countertop to be delivered. So lots of work there to do with the rest of the cabinets, but this was our drive. And we've solved for 2 of our problems so far. But more than anything, we were feeling much better about our decision to repurpose and repaint these cabinets. Now there's still a lot of work to be done, and there's the entire issue of making sure they will fit properly in the wall space and see if it's even possible to get them level and plumb in this old farmhouse. But we're committed at this point. We're going to make it happen. Well, the walls and the trim are all painted. They look great. Kara did a fantastic job. And that brings us, I think, to a natural stopping point, because next on our project list is to set the cabinet bases. They won't measure for the countertop until we get the cabinet bases set in place. So we'll get those bases in and then work on our uppers and get everything painted. I'm going to try to paint all the fronts and all the doors with a paint gun. So we'll see how that goes too. So I know this is different than our normal DIY content, but I want to thank you so much for clicking on this video. And if I'm lucky, I will see you in the next one. Thanks a lot. Take care. It's time to go.
Mainly because the mice, right?